But one of the greatest things that Emanuel, personally, that I think he established was the International Holocaust Remembrance Day.
And Germany didn't have a memorial day to the Holocaust. I said, I'm going to give it to them.
So how many countries now are
Around
celebrating? 200?
Around 200 commemorating.
That's amazing. Well, ladies and gentlemen, again, we're here at the 2025 National Religious Broadcasters Convention, and I have another infamous Israeli. His name is Emanuel Rund. And let me tell you a little bit about Emanuel. We have a lot in common. We're both filmmakers, and Emanuel has produced hundreds of documentary films, award-winning documentary films. But one of the greatest things that Emanuel, personally, that I think he established was the International Holocaust Remembrance Day. It was Emanuel who came up with the idea of drawing attention to the international world to remind us so that we never forget what happened in Germany, in Europe, during the Holocaust. So Emanuel, it's so great. Emanuel came all the way from Jerusalem, by the way. He also lives in Jerusalem. So Emanuel, thank you for being with us today and for making the trek here all the way from Jerusalem. We feel so honored to have you.
Thank you. To see everything that you are doing. That's also a great thing, beautiful thing.
Well, this is what we do. We have an audience, as our audience knows. It's mostly Christians, but we also have members of the Jewish community. And our mission is to educate Christians about our biblical duty to stand with Israel and the Jewish people so we don't have another Holocaust. And you know, when I first started in all of this, I realized, I asked myself the question, Emanuel, how could the Holocaust happen in a Christian nation? Germany at the time, Germany was, you could say, a Judeo-Christian nation. There were Jews and Christians who lived in Germany throughout Europe. So where was the church? Where were Christians when Hitler started rounding up the Jews and slaughtering them, taking them to concentration camps? Why didn't the church wake up? And it's not like these concentration camps were out in the boondocks, out in the country where nobody knew what was going on. Some of these concentration camps were right next to communities. So Emanuel, you came up with this amazing idea because we have been trying to remember the Holocaust every year, but there was one area that we weren't focused on, and that was international education. Here in the United States, we were educating Americans. In Israel, we have Yad Vashem as a memorial, but you decided to take it one step further and take us to an international route. So tell us about, how did that start? Why the International Holocaust Remembrance Day?
Okay, because it was growing up in Jerusalem. Once a year on Holocaust Memorial Day, the Jews, around April, we used to stand, and commemorate the Holocaust. We would go to Yad Vashem, but that was it. Then the Israeli television sent me to New York, 1972, and I started to work in New York. And I worked on 2 films with Professor Elie Wiesel. And I decided to help hundreds of Holocaust survivors to open up and tell the story. That was 1980.
Wow.
Because still, 35 years after the war, they still kept the story for themselves. And I did the first oral history recording them. And then, since my parents lost their parents to the Nazis, my father also lost his sister, Kate, and my father lost his first wife, who was pregnant at the time in Europe. And they came to Israel on time, escaping the Nazis, but they never spoke about anything about the Holocaust or about the background. It was so painful. Not only they, most Israelis, most Jews.
Well, that's hard. For us today, in modern day, because of your work that you did way back then, it's really kind of surprising to me that there was a time when the Holocaust survivors wouldn't speak,
Yeah.
but there actually was. They were silent. They didn't want to relive the trauma.
Sure. And then, so for me, I worked on a big project for Department of Health, Education, and Welfare to improve bedside manner in America, 50 films. And then I went to Hollywood, worked with Israeli friends, making films. But one morning, after I was praying the morning prayers, and I meditated, I decided I didn't come to this world to entertain it. I have more meaningful things to do. So I moved to the Upper West Side, New York, Manhattan, and I went to 30 synagogues. Asked the rabbis, all the people there, for Holocaust survivors, and I volunteered to help 600 survivors to open up and tell the story, because they didn't. And then I worked in America, many, many films. And then in 1985, I went to Germany because my mother was invited by the Christian church and the city to visit their hometown. They contacted all the Jews who used to live there all over the world, from South America to Australia, you name it. I decided to go see where my mother comes from, where my grandfather, the rabbi, was, where was the synagogue. And so I went there in 1984. 1985, I came again for a similar visit, where I had a contract to make a film about the visit. And I was there, and I realized that at least the youngsters, many old people didn't tell much. They didn't want to, of course, what happened in the 30s in their small town. But the youngsters didn't know anything that there were Jews in town. I decided that doesn't go, so I decided to make more films about it. Then I realized that Germany, the Holocaust Memorial Day was only in Israel around April, May, any Jewish communities around the world. Nobody else around the world. And Germany didn't have a Memorial Day to the Holocaust. I said, I'm going to give it to them. 1994, I took a group of young Germans, Christians, grandchildren of Nazis, who wanted to have some kind of peace
remorse.
to make.
They had remorse for what they're...
Right. And they wanted to make peace with the Jews and Israel. So I brought them to Israel, a group. I made 6 documentary films with them, hugging survivors, going to Yad Vashem, getting to know Israel. And when I filmed in Yad Vashem, one of the young German women, Karen, she ran towards me with a camera on my shoulders. And I asked her in Germany, Karen, you want to say something? Willst du etwas sagen, Karen? And she shouted, all the survivors all around Yad Vashem looked, who is shouting in German? She said, yes, I'm ashamed that in my country, in Germany, where we are responsible, we don't remember the Holocaust.
Wow.
So with that, I went back to Germany. In Germany, besides making films and lectures and everything, film festivals between Sunday and Friday, I served as a rabbi cantor in 15 Jewish communities in Germany for the Russian Jews who came without any Judaism. And then I was elected by the Christian Jewish Relations Board in Germany to be on board of the organization, which I did earlier in America with Rabbi Mark Tenenbaum. I was also in America on that organization. So I had many contacts, connected myself with the Christians, also in Israel at the beginning of the building up.
So this is nothing new to you than being here at the National Religious Broadcasters Convention. Yeah, because these are Christians.
I came back to Germany after filming the 6 films, started to edit them. And then because I was in this Christian Jewish organization, I was invited like 3 times a week for different events all over Germany, with the Chancellor of Germany, with the President, with everybody from the Parliament.
Right.
And I decided this is the time I'll tell them that I filmed in Israel with young Germans who are ashamed, and I pointed a finger at whoever I spoke to, except for the Chancellor.
Wow.
And I said, they're ashamed that you don't remember the Holocaust. And I would like you, Germans, to start it. I got lots of people supporting me
Right.
from the parliament, from organizations, and that was 1994. And then in January 3rd, 1996, I get a call from the office of the President of Germany, Roman Herzog, that he accepts my initiative and he proclaims January 27th
Wow.
Memorial Day to the Holocaust in Germany.
Wow.
And then many other countries picked up that day as their own.
So how many countries now are
Around 200.
celebrating? 200? Yeah.
Around 200 commemorate.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and then my friend Benny, Israeli ambassador to the UN, attended many of the events in Europe after 1996, including the German and others in Europe. And he was Israeli ambassador to the UN. And he went to Kofi Annan, the Secretary General,
Right.
and he said, look, I attended all over the world the 27th of January. Why don't we have it international officially? Sure enough, Kofi Annan proclaimed it, and since then, I was invited as a guest of honor, of course, when I was in Germany, to the German Parliament to sit next to Chancellor Merkel on that day, the 27th. When I was in New York, I was invited by the UN. Last time, 2019, with Inge Aubacher, my protagonist of my 3 films about concentration camp in Theresienstadt. So we appeared at the UN 2019.
So, it's amazing to see the work the impact of the work that you've done. Good to see you. It's amazing to see the impact of the work you've done. I wish I would have known you back when I was working at the United Nations.
Okay.
Because you would have been a big help. When I would try to approach the German consulate, or the ambassador, I couldn't get their full potential.
Right.
Or attention. I couldn't get them to. They were very hesitant. And I know one time the ambassador said to me that Germany is very ashamed of their past, of what they did, that they could allow such evil, wickedness to prosper, to kill, target specific people. But it's amazing to see how now you have over 200 countries now recognizing this International Holocaust Remembrance Day. And, for me, I look back and knowing that, there were very few Jews early on that wanted to talk about this. I never really even considered this. But what is the impact? Because all that work you did all those years ago, for generations, and now we see a turn of events again happening in Germany and really throughout Europe, where we see anti-Semitism on the rise. We see a rise of the Nazis again. What do you think about all this? I mean, it's very disappointing to see that Germany would even allow its people to participate. I know they're a Western country, democracy, but what are your thoughts about that?
Well, that was my duty. I made 30 films about the Holocaust and the revival of Israel. And when I lectured what should we learn from the Holocaust so it doesn't happen again. But the train left the station already, and I see that I was not successful as I wanted to be. Of course, I reached millions of people around the world.
And you still do, really. You're still doing that with the International Holocaust Remembrance Day. But it's, it goes back to the question that I had when I first started PJTN. If this could happen in a Judeo-Christian nation, a nation that gave rise to the Protestant religion, could another Holocaust happen again? And I thought for sure, no, not if we're educating Christians to stand up. But Emanuel, we're seeing it rise again. Can we ever defeat? Because it feels like Amalek. It feels like
Yeah.
every generation
For us,
we have to confront
remember it.
the issue of the Jewish question once again,
Right.
when it was settled.
I must admit that when I came to America in 1972, I never experienced any anti-Semitic event, except one lady in the elevator who said, "We celebrate Christmas and the Jews make the money." But that was not a terrible thing. But otherwise, I was very proud of America, especially when I went to Germany for about 20 years to make the 30 films about the Holocaust and teach and lecture. I always say that I'm too proud to be an American because American is free. Well, that used to be, and as you see, things have changed. And I hope, and I continue to lecture. I gathered an archive of about 40 years of everything, you name it, dealing with Judaism, Christian-Jewish relations, Holocaust, Israel, and everything. So it's an archive that I believe somebody should take it to use it for research and teaching, like universities, possibility in Texas.
Right.
They spoke with me about it.
Well, they don't just, they're not just coming for the Jews. The Jews are the canary in the coal mine. If they start coming after the Jewish community in your community, then the church isn't going to be that far behind. In fact, case in point, we just had 70 Christians beheaded in the Congo last week. They are coming after Christians because we are the people of the book. Jews and Christians believe in the one true God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and that is what unites us. But we are facing another threat, an Islamist threat. This is what's happening in Europe. We've seen their immigration. The immigration program was a complete, utter failure in Europe. I don't care what country you pick that brought in all these immigrants. These immigrants are raping and beating women, children in these countries. And the governments aren't doing anything about it. But here in the United States, we see communities, enclaves of Islamo-fascists who want to eliminate Israel. In fact, I was just meeting with somebody yesterday who told me about a community here in Texas that they're very concerned about because they are promoting a takeover of their community by the Islamo-fascists. This poses a huge threat to all of us. Right. They are fighting a 1,400-year war. We don't even study back 1,400 years. We can't get the curriculum correct in our classrooms. We're teaching them propaganda. So we can't even get that right. But we're oblivious. We forget about here in the United States, the Barbary pirates. The Barbary pirates were fighting what they termed back then in the history books, the Mohammedans. The Muslims, the Islamists, we were fighting them back then. In fact, it was the first war our country fought internationally. Right. Was with the Barbary pirates. Yeah. So we've got, Emanuel, I don't think your job is over anytime soon.
He wants me here and he protects me, Emanuel. But such problems with the Muslims, the Jews, after the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem, Jews came to the Iberia Peninsula to Spain. And they were there until the Muslims came after the 8th century. They came through Gibraltar and they came to, as I said, to take over Europe. And then there was the Christians in Spain, the Reconquista, and they drove them out of there. But then they decided there's another group of people that they have to take care of who don't want to be Christians, and they forced their Christianity on the Jews. Some of them had to convert to Christianity and live like conversos or marranos if they were detected by the Spanish church. Right. And that was in my film, Sepharad, Spain, 500 years to the expansion of Jews from Spain. And it was screened all over Germany. 1992, 500 years to the expulsion, in the week of brotherhood, Christian-Jewish brotherhood. Every German saw my film and learned about what happened to the Jews of Spain. My mother's family Lopez, they lived in Toledo, and they decided to leave the country and not to continue living there as Catholics. And they left with Rabbi Isaac Abarbanel, the chief rabbi of Spain.
Yes, absolutely.
And they went to Venice in the ghetto, but again, it was the Catholics giving them hard time and taxes and everything. So they, 1638, they left all the way up to Amsterdam and Hamburg, which were Protestant countries, which received them nicely. And my mother's family in Toledo, before they left, they decided to leave to 10 different countries. Wherever it is good for the Jews, they stay there, and the rest come and join them. And if it's problem, they leave, go. That's what my mother's family did. Some of them went with Columbus to the America. People don't know Columbus was a Jew.
That's right.
His name was Jonah, and he picked up the book of Jonah, the story with the whale and the ship, and he became a man of, sailing ships. And he decided in 1492, we have a tale in Jewish tradition that back there in the east, there's the river Sambation. And beyond that river is Garden of Eden. Now, one of these reasons was to take the Jews further away to the east, but he knew that the world is round. He was smart. And so he decided to go west, young man, and then to continue to the east from the other side. But we know he discovered the American Caribbeans mainly. And he was supposed to leave in August when the Ferdinand and Isabella gave him the 3 ships, the Nina, and he was ready to go, but it was the 9th of Av. That was the day of the destruction of both temples in Jerusalem, and he knew he cannot live on a Jewish holiday, especially commemorating, so he postponed it one day. Nobody knew why everything was ready to go. And on the ship, he had many conversos. Many Jews also escaped, possibly my mother's family, because they wanted to go everywhere. And his navigators were Rabbi Abraham Zakuta and his son Isaac Zakuta, who they produced a sextant, the device that you look at the stars and give you the direction, north, east, whatever. And he had lots of Jews on the train, on the boats, on the 3 boats. And he came and he detected the Caribbeans, what became San Salvador and Haiti and Dominican Republic. That was the beginning. And he called it, he believed that he was in India. So he called the natives Indians. And then, he kept going 3 times, back and forth, from Spain over there. And then the Spanish church discovered that he was Jewish. Although he tried to get a cover. He was born in Spain, but he told everybody he was born in Genoa, Italy, so nobody will look for his roots. But then the church at some point realized he's surrounded by Jews. He got Jewish money for the trip to America. They killed him, and his grave is unknown. They just killed him and dropped him somewhere. And so I tell the Americans they don't have to demonstrate on 59th Street on the Italian Columbus Circle.
Exactly. So that's what our next documentary is about. I'm glad you bring this up, the Lost Jews of the Inquisition, because we found out also that our family were descendants of the Sephardic Jews that were forced, the conversos, that were forced to convert. As we close up this interview, why is it important to study or to learn, again, to tell the story of the Inquisition? Why is that important today?
Yeah, because the issue with the Muslims coming to Europe to take over, we have it today, also in America. And it's important to know that Jews contribute to the country.
Right.
I had a long discussion with the Israeli president, who is also Sephardi, and we discussed my film, how to make it, and to teach everybody we're never safe. We contribute to the country. German Jews, like my grandparents,
Yes.
built Germany.
Right.
They made it what it became, the top of the world in culture and everything, finance. And then they're killing us. So this is a lesson we have to learn. Only in Israel we are safe, but then again, Israel, we are being attacked from
That's right.
50 Muslim countries and 7 countries on the border. And again, that's another film that I'll be making. An Israeli officer who, in the Gaza, all his friends were
Right.
killed by the massacre, and his place, kibbutz, was destroyed. He wants me to make a film to show that mainly the Americans what it means to live in a small town, small place like New Jersey,
Right.
and you are being surrounded from all over, from New York State, from Columbus, Ohio, from all over the place, being bombarded with thousands of missiles. And if not for the Israelis' care for their own people to build, shelters
Right.
and to build the missiles that shoot down the missiles, we would have, million Jews
Exactly.
killed there.
Excellent.
But then again, so we built Israel, we have to be strong, and unfortunately we have to pay a high price for that. And but again, we learn, we say in the Haggadah in Pesach, that in every generation we have to remember Amalek, what he did to us when
That's
he
right.
came out of Egypt 3,000 years ago, and they fought us. We have to remember what they did to us. So, Bechol Dor Vador, in every generation, we say every Passover, we have to remember what they did to us
Right.
and to be strong.
Absolutely. And God willing, we're going to have a lot of Christian supporters that are going to stand with you once again to fight this battle
Oh,
as
they
we are right
I
now.
love them.
Emmanuel,
Okay.
thank you so much for your time. It's been amazing. God bless
Okay.
you.
Thank you. And thank you for everything that you do and for the friendship with Israel and being against
Thank
anti-Semitism.
you.
So we're brothers and sisters.
Thank you. Amen. Ladies and
Thank you
gentlemen,
very
thank you
much.
again for joining us. Emanuel Rund, how can they learn more about your work? Do you have-
If they Google Emanuel Rund, R-U-N-D, lots of interviews also with you,
Okay,
and lots of stories about the Kristallnacht and every other thing.
fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for joining us.